Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm sure you received my email that I sent out this weekend regarding a investigation that has happened on Thursday, I believe, at one of clinics that National Medical Director supervises in NorCal. Unfortunately, they have been raided by the Department of Consumer Affairs. At this point, we don't have any details to why they were raided or are currently under investigation. However, we do want to hold this meeting to show awareness and God forbid if they do decide to do investigations in all of National Medical Directors Inc.'s clinics on what to be prepared for. And today we want to work with each and every one of you to make sure you guys have all the resources and everything checked off on that list that we sent you guys to make sure everyone's in full compliance and prepared. So as of right now, we don't have anything or know anything further. We just know that was unfortunately raided by the Department of Consumer Affairs due to a complaint. So we just want to go through everything and make sure that everyone's aware on the setup, the process. Dr. Paula Ban, the owner of National Medical Directors Inc., is also on this meeting. If you don't know him, he is the owner of the practice. But we will go over all of these terms and stuff again during this presentation.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining, and hopefully you'll find this useful. So if there's anyone out there who hasn't met me, I am a physician board certified in internal medicine. I've been in practice one way or another since 1993. Most of that time in Maine, moved to California in 2015. I started working with this team and National Medical Directors about 2 or 3 years ago. Am I right about that?
Yeah, that's
been a while. It's been a while. Time flies. Started out, just signing on to be medical director for a few clinics, and then as my relationship with the team grew, we sort of grew into this role with me serving as chief medical officer to provide the medical ownership for all the clinics, part of the management. So, but really, Brittany and Jennings and Amanda are the experts in the compliance. So I'm going to pass it back to them. And if you have any questions for any of us, just put it right in the chat and we will address whatever questions you have. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Laban. So as you guys all know, your guys' fictitious name permits have all been signed by Dr. Paul Laban. Although you guys are supervising physicians underneath him, Dr. Paul Laban is the owner of the practice, National Medical Directors Inc. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to go over the legal requirements for medical supervision in California for med spas. We all know we're not stocking toothpaste on the shelf. It's a very highly regulated business. So again, we just wanted to go over our model that we are currently using for med spas in California. So again, the MSO-PC model, again, in terms related, a professional corporation. So the professional corporation that you guys are all being supervised under is called National Medical Directors Inc. So if someone were to walk into your clinic and says, who is the owner of this practice? It's not Crystal, for example, it's Dr. Paula Band, and he is the owner of the Professional Medical Corporation, National Medical Directors Inc. You guys, for example, is the management company, the Management Services Organization, also known as the MSO. So if we put 2 and 2 together, the model we are under is the MSO-PC model, Management Services Organization Professional Corporation. Again, Dr. Paula Band is the owner of the professional corporation. You guys are 100% owner, most parts of the MSO, also known as most of the part is your LLC. And then again, we need to make sure that all of the MSAs, management services agreements, are signed between Dr. Paula Band and the management company. So again, that's on the checklist that we sent you. We need to make sure all management services agreements are signed between both entities. We need to define the medical procedures and device requirements. Most of the time, 99% of the time in California, registered nurses are the only ones that are able to perform services in California. Registered nurses, physician assistants, nurses practitioners, make sure that you have all devices properly as California law defines. Disclaimer, I'm not an attorney. So we just need to make sure if there are any, for example, microneedling pens, that the energy penetration beyond 2 millimeters into the skin is considered a medical treatment. Any treatments that permanently or semi-permanently alter the skin is considered the practice of medicine. So we need to make sure that we have the correct persons that are performing these treatments, have the correct delegation orders. That again, we will make sure. So, such as nurse practitioners, physician assistants, registered nurses are the only ones performing these procedures. All class 2 medical devices, including lasers, microneedling pens, body sculpting equipment, must have FDA registrations for safety monitoring. So again, if you guys can get with your account managers, whether it's me, Carolyn, or Tina, to make sure all the devices you guys have in the clinics are FDA registered and have clearance and approval. We'll go over all this stuff and make sure all the nurse practitioners, registered nurses have skills list verification forms to ensure that they're aware on how to use these devices as well. The scope of practice and legal boundaries, that's something that I just spoke about, that lay persons cannot legally recommend prescriptive services. Again, so we need to make sure that we're not interfering with what's called the corporate practice of medicine. I've spoken to a lot of you guys. I'm a lot of your guys' account manager. I've always instilled this into your guys' head that we need to make sure we're not interfering with the practice of medicine, because a lot of us are not physicians, right? So we need to make sure that we're not recommending any prescriptive services, influencing medical decisions, diagnosing, suggesting treatments. So we just need to make sure that we're not interfering with the practice of medicine, that we are, how can I say this? If there are any investigations that are happening, sometimes people can go in acting like they are husband and wife or best friends, and they want to understand your guys' process, right? So we need to make sure that we're not saying like, hey, we're doing Botox here. I'm going to not diagnose you for you have headaches, so you're gonna need Botox and so forth. We just pretty much need to say like, hey, this is what we offer at the clinic, but prior to doing so, we need to get you medically clear. Here are the steps to do so, right? So again, make sure that no lay people in the clinic is interfering with the practice of medicine. These are the physician responsibilities to do so. So medical directors must maintain that accountability for patient care and remain available at all times for any adverse events and supervising any prescriptive services and documenting everything. If you are not, majority of you guys are on the WeTreat platform, this helps alleviate a lot of this stuff. As the medical directors, majority of them are on our platform to also help medically clear the patients, document the patients, and be there for any adverse events. So again, if you are not familiar with the WeTreat platform, please book a meeting with myself, Carolyn, or Tina to get familiar with this process so we can help alleviate any inscrutability of or you guys being accused for abiding by the corporate practice medicine law. So that's what that means.
Guys, it's Jennings Staley here, and I wanted to take this time to go over the good faith exam and why that's so important. It's protective. What we're seeing with the investigations in recent months and then the one last week is what they're looking for, how they're literally trying to trip you up, and what they want to do is come in as, like Brittany said, typically they pretend to be husband, wife, best friends, sisters, something like that. They always come in two at a time. That's your alert, right? That's the red flag. People that booked a double appointment. They want to get a consultation. They want you to tell them what's wrong with them. It's why we intentionally built the WeTreat app with the GFE structure to start with the patient goals. I just went to a med spa here in San Diego to get some IPL. I tried to do an annual IPL, and I wanted to see how this dermatologist did it. The patient care coordinator, non-licensed person, put me in a room, asked me how they could help me. What concerns did I have? And so that's the gathering of data. Patients are pretty good at saying, I don't like my under eyes, or I have a bunch of sun damage from jogging outside, right? Patients know kind of why they're there, or they may have that I've had Botox before, I want to get it again. Well, what concerns you, ma'am or sir? Why do you want the Botox? I don't like the wrinkles around my eyes or the way my brow furrows, etc. We know that estheticians, care coordinators, even nurses, they know a lot about skincare. That's not the point. We know they know about the skin disorders probably better than some dermatologists. That's not the point. If you go so far as to say, I see that you have X, Y, and Z disorder, skin problem, concern. And therefore, I'm going to go ahead and recommend that you get Botox. And I think what you need is 40 units. They are literally waiting for those words to come out of your mouth. The moment what's happened recently is you go to draw up the Botox or touch the syringe, open the Juvederm, turn the laser on, whatever, even though you may be an RN with protocol able to do that and better training than the doctor. Again, it's not fair. It's not about what's fair or it's about who knows the most. It's procedural. And these investigators are like bloodhounds trained to look for these things. And the moment you touch that syringe, grab the Botox vial, turn the laser on, they will present their badge and may arrest you. So far, no one's been arrested this week, but they will certainly ruin your day. And they're going to issue a search warrant right then and there and take your computers, was what happened last week, and take your cell phones, take your printers, take all your documents, and basically raid you. There's cops sitting in the parking lot. And I know this is insane, but the reason why also Brittany mentioned for some of you who join later is national medical directors and we have worked hand in glove for several years. And we got lumped into an investigation going on in Concord, and we were raided on Thursday with 22 agents. It was straight up off the movies, guns out, clearing rooms, clear, like a freaking military operation. And you want to talk about terrified? We had 13 employees with hands behind their back being interrogated all damn day, and it went on till 8:30 at night. And so it's happening now. If anyone wants to raise their hand and let us know if you've been investigated or heard from the DCA or, God forbid, raided in the last few days, let us know. Certainly, if that happens, let us know. They calmed down a lot. I think they thought we were doing things improperly, and the tenor of the investigation as the day went on went from like super intense to, we're sorry we had to come here. You guys look like you have everything buttoned up great. So we're not really too worried, but it's very traumatizing. So that's why we're holding this emergency meetings. Back to the GFE. The GFE is what protects you, and it's about the sequence. You need to know what's the patient concern, why are they there, and that can be a layperson getting that information. That information then is presented to the Dr. LeBand or the medical director's delegate, which is often an NP. The NP has to make the diagnoses and clear them for a treatment that's covered by a standard operating procedure, sometimes referred to as a standing order. So just make sure that because I know it makes no sense, and I know it's insulting to a lot of nurses who are very highly trained to limit their ability to interact with a patient at that clinical level. But you guys have to be very careful in the state of California. It is not worth it.
Okay. Patient care requirements. Patients, not clients, must be informed of their physician's identity and to the right of the request physician consultation. So I know that we did send out a checklist on what needs to be done, but we want to make sure that in everyone's lobby there is also the medical board. It's like a QR code doctor. If it's your doctor's not Paula Ban, your supervising physician's license is hung up in the lobby, even maybe with a headshot, something written out stating that this is our medical director, this is our supervising physician. It needs to be known. Even, for example, when you get legit script certified, it asks, like, does your patients know who's your doctor, right? Is it on consent forms? Is it where is it located at? So we just want to blast it everywhere, in our opinion. So we need to make sure that they are aware of who's the doctor. For they can't go like, oh yeah, I came to the office, the doctor's not here. I don't even think they have a doctor, right? And there you go. So we need to make sure that that's known. Jennings did just mention the good faith exam. Everything at this point we think needs a good faith exam, right? So we just need to make sure that this is mandatory, that all patients are getting that preliminary good faith exam prior to any treatment. And yes, we do have the WeTreat platform to exercise those good faith exams.
Brittany, sorry, I'm putting my hand up. If anyone else has a question, when it's a reasonable spot, put your hand up, and Brittany as the moderator and Amanda as the assistant moderator will call on you. I just want to remind everybody, this includes all public facing information. So your website, landing pages, social media, social posts, something you posted on Instagram. We had a nurse rated last year because she opened her med spa, was so proud of herself and all of her hard work, rightfully so, and put on Instagram, I finally did it. My dreams are come true. I now am the proud owner of blank XYZ med spa. Yay me, kind of thing. We saw it, immediately called her that night and said, "What the hell are you doing? Get that down, get that down." It was too late. Literally, someone took a screenshot, and that investigation is now in about a year and a half. And some of you may know who she is. It's a very ridiculous case, right? But this gets back to some of it is terminology. They are literally offended if you say that I had a great Friday thanks to all my staff. We killed it with our clients today. Okay. They're pissed off if you use the word client anywhere in your marketing, on your website, on your social media, because to them, what that means is you think this isn't the practice of medicine. So always, always, always refer to these people, your clients, as patients. Just erase that word out of your brain. That was my 2 cents. Thank you.
No, no worries. And adding on to social media, again, we give you guys all the doctors and Dr. LeBand's bio and headshot as well. We do want to make sure that you guys have that listed on your website, on your Instagram, because again, we don't want it to be, let's say it's Brittany Botti Nursing, right? Or on my Instagram, and I don't have in my bio medically supervised by National Medical Directors Inc. or Paul LeBand, MD, right? So we just need to make sure all social media is buttoned up as well. Documentation, you guys all know everything is considered a medical record. It all must be kept on file. Everything's HIPAA compliant, etc., etc. In a med spa setting, the medical director is always accountable for patient's well-being, regardless of who performs the procedure, right? So a lot of this is the risk and the liability that everyone holds here. Esthetician employment and licensing. So estheticians are different than a registered nurse, right? Because they are not medical. So they can be employed by either a physician or a business. I do know that a lot of you guys, and moving forward, we want all healthcare providers to be employed and should be employed by the practice, National Medical Directors Inc., which is, a lot of you guys know, is through Gusto. If you guys are not on Gusto, or your registered nurses or any healthcare employees are not employed through Gusto, through National Medical Directors Inc., please email me. We need to set up a meeting ASAP for all healthcare employees are employed by Gusto. However, estheticians can be employed by either the PC in this case or the business. So it might be easier, Dennings, if we just have all the employees be employed under the PC. It's up to you.
So this brings up this point. It's super easy. She's saying Gusto. What she's talking about is our payroll service. We have maybe, I would say, 80 of the clinics in there. That means 40 of you are not. That's fine. If you're using a payroll service, we're not making any money off this. We actually lose money every month on it. It's an investment we make. But what they're asking in these investigations, they'll ask the nurses to demonstrate their pay stub. And if it doesn't say National Medical Directors Inc., aka Paul LeBand, and the 39 doctors or so that work for Paul LeBand, the medical directors, they're checking a box, being like, there's more to see here. We haven't, just to be clear, we have never lost an investigation. We have 3 to 8 going on at all times for the past 3 years. We've never lost one. So, but we don't want to give them ammunition to drag the damn thing on all year long, 2 years, because you're talking 10, 50. We're in one now for $80,000. It's not in California, but they get expensive, and so that pay stub, and it's just so easy to just create your sub account in Gusto and run your payroll, connect it to your revenue account, so your licensees. And the point of this slide was that you can have an esthetician under the practice as an employee, but you can also employ them by the MSO, and that's kind of like up to you guys. A lot of spas upgraded or otherwise added medical, and so they had a core team of people doing lashes and skin and facials, estheticians, right? And then there was some confusion about that. So if they ask you, you might be ready to say our estheticians and non-licensed workers work for the MSO, which is Beauty Bar by Jake, or whatever, and the name is, and then the licensed workers, of course, officer so-and-so work for the practice.
So real quick, just going back to the last slide, when Jennings was talking about the GFE, did you say that I know the order is very important. So you said no registered nurse can touch anything or talk about anything until the good faith exam is done. Is that what you said?
1,000%.
Okay, I just want to make sure I heard that correctly.
You can't, because when you touch the Botox filler, turn the laser on, you are beginning technically the practice of medicine.
Okay, I see. Okay.
So it's like, if you didn't get that GFE, then you're starting the practice of medicine without authority.
Right. Okay.
Then everyone involved is going to get an unlicensed practice of medicine check.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's what we like about our process for the good faith exams too, is while you guys are consulting, right, about the services that's being offered at the clinic, while the patient is getting their good faith exam done, and that's when, you guys can start prepping for whatever services is being offered. So yes, that is correct.
I just want to dovetail on that. I built with the help of very smart people, smarter than me, the GFE engine in WeTreat app to allow you to customize the intake questions, customize the goals, it starts with the goals, then the intake questions, then the services that you all are offering. And as you probably know, you can get a whole swath of services approved in one clean sweep versus the competitors, which are profit driven, limit you to 4 or 5. And sometimes you then have to go back and pay for another one. Go ahead and get as many services approved at that patient visit as is appropriate for the time the patient wants to spend and how open-minded they are to hear about all your other treatments, right? But what we've seen people dinged on is if you got approved for Botox and then you come back 6 months later, now you're getting laser hair removal. When they subpoena that chart, if there's no overt, clear evidence that a licensed NP or MD approved you for laser hair removal, it's as if you didn't get a GFE at all. So when you log into the WeTreat app, that's why we put them in big bubbles, big green bubbles, color coordinated to show you quickly. And I don't believe any other competitor lets you see specifically what they've been approved for and not approved for. That's an easy change too. Your NP can just go in there, do a quick live conversation and through the telemedicine that exists in the waiting room and say, hey, can you just add on GLP-1s or can you go ahead and clear them for weight loss? No problem. They're just going to click and change the button. And we did that to protect the med spas intentionally. It's very, very intentional, the workflow of the GFE engine.
So a real quick question as far as like the good faith exams go. So we use the WeTreat app. I mean, like multiple times per day. It's very functional for it. But what I have a question is, who legally should be asking the questions on the good faith exam? So we have a nurse practitioner in office on location at any point in time that we're open. Our NP is in there. But like sometimes our RN will go through all the questions before. We've never administered any services prior to doing the good faith exam, but our NP will then go in and clear those like just from her actual office. And then for anything Botox filler related, she does the face-to-face. Are we in compliance doing it that way? I just want to make sure that if we are doing something wrong.
Of course, for sure. This is a great, fantastic question. So the collection of data, which is the answers to their patient intake questions, can be literally done by anyone on your office staff who signed a BAA. So make sure, your care coordinators is typically what we call that role.
Yeah.
There's another cool feature in the GFE because some clinics want to pre-qualify the patient before, especially if they're spending per GFE using NMD prescribers. You can pre-qualify them, and that's intentionally a button that you select that basically lets non-licensed people, which are less expensive and may have more sales training, and they tend to be more customer friendly. You want those conversations being had with those care coordinators. And then if they've pre-qualified them, you submit that button. And if they're qualified now, then it goes to the GFE queue. And they're in the prescribers, which is the NP. We have a lot of MDs doing GFEs now too. They really enjoy doing them.
Yeah.
They basically look at the answers, look at all that information you've put in there, and that's perfectly legal. It's not legal. It's common. It's how they anticipate it being done. Great question.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Good. All right.
And the BAA that he was referring to is all in the binder as well. All that documentation is on the binder.
If you're managing payroll through your MSO to your non-licensed workers, certainly just make that part of your, it should be, and I'm sure it is for most of you, it's part of your new hire onboarding documents, just like a confidentiality agreement, non-compete, BAA, all of that's there because you're working in a healthcare environment. Next question, Brittany.
Hi guys, question about GFE again. So my assistant patient coordinator is clearing every single new patient that comes through the doors. Then I take them back in the room and kind of start the conversation and consultation. I always try and not touch my patient until that GFE is signed. Is that correct? I always have to kind of wait for nurse practitioner to approve because there is a like once they signed the chart under we treat, that means that they physically approved them for medical treatment, and only then I can go forward. If they didn't, for some reason, sometimes on Saturdays it takes a little while, but still, I still have to wait, right?
1000%. You're doing it correct. You do
Okay.
have to wait. Try to get them done earlier if you know the patients are coming. The national medical directors, they're not We Treat employees. The NPs and MDs that work for national medical directors in California and other PCs nationwide basically are asynchronous, probably 9% of the time. So they're working at night. They can clear people well in advance of their appointment.
Okay. Another question, have you had a story where when investigation came through and they just did the procedure and left? And do they even like say we were from medical board if you like complied with everything they wanted to trick you in and everything was correct? Are we even going to know?
No, I've never heard that. They never get a treatment done. They're not there to get lasered or injected. They probably have no interest in that.
So every single time they come in, something goes wrong.
No, it's more like if they're collecting info and you did it right, they're going to tell you, well, thanks, I really appreciate the information, and I love your med spa. I'm going to go home and talk to my husband, or I'm going to go home and think about it, and I'll get back to you. They never get a treatment though.
Okay. If they start asking about policies and procedures and other documentation, am I obligated to start talking and showing all of that to them, or I tell them
Absolutely not unless they present a search warrant.
Yeah.
Or an inquiry,
Okay.
an official inquiry, which is, I think it's like a Form 100, something like that, or a search warrant. 99% are going to get an inquiry. And this is where most investigations that cost people tens of thousands of dollars happens is they mail you an inquiry or drop it off certified and it says you have 14 days to get back to us. And what happens is everyone's busy and they throw that in the bag and it gets in the back of your car. And the next thing you know, those 14 days go by and an investigation is automatically triggered. So the stupidest thing anyone can do is not take those inquiries seriously. That's an immediate phone call to your medical director and your account manager team, maybe your lawyer, and getting them the information they want. Because most inquiries, when you respond appropriatly, don't turn into investigations. They're scary still, but they do want your practice management binder. So if they come in and take your practice management binder, let your account manager know. So you can print off a new one, but we can also ship you one pretty fast in about 3 days through FedEx Kinko's. The fastest thing to do is take it from your G Drive folder, send it to Kinko's and have them print it off, and then have your nurses and medical directors stop by and re-sign a new one, I would say, just in case they come back. But they took it, they'll bring it back when the investigation's over. I don't think it's worth waiting.
My question is along the lines of the GFE as well. So sometimes if can assess, and then get them cleared. It doesn't happen often, but is that still okay, or automatically, even if it's a consultation, they have to be cleared, and then we talk?
A consultation is fine, can be done by a layperson. It's only if they want to have a treatment done that day that you have to get the GFE prior to starting any prescriptive treatment. Did that answer the question? You were broke up a little bit at the beginning.
Yeah. So we always get them cleared prior to an actual treatment. But if they're not getting a treatment, or they are, but they decide after the assessment that I do as the RN, then I get them cleared. Is that okay? Or I have to clear
Yes.
them?
Yes,
Okay.
and to add more information to that, you can sell a service. Someone can buy a service and get cleared later. That's going
Okay.
on, unless we update that and tell you otherwise. But we know for a fact, like Laser Away and some of the large retail chains which operate off MSO-PC model, they are selling big packages and then getting the patient cleared. A lot of times, I still advise that. I think it's not smart to sell them though something unless they've gotten cleared. And one thing you could do is tell them, oh, I see your concerns. I recognize that you're concerned about this, and this with your face or body. Before we can make any recommendations, though, I would like you to meet our nurse practitioner through the telemedicine. But if you're not sure they're going to buy, just let them know that it's normally complimentary. But if you're not going to buy, charge them $30 or even $50 for the consult as a credit. Like when I went to the dermatologist down the street, it was $150 to book the appointment, and if I don't show up, they apply it. And I think most people are not aware that patients who spend at med spas understand there's going to be a holding fee or a free consult with a deposit applied as a credit. So charge them $50 and make money off your GFE unless you're using your own prescriber. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So I have a question. We have some students who shadow. They're non-paid students who will come in and shadow, and often they will take the patients back into the room, take their photos, give them consents, and we have them ask just pre-qualifying questions, just a few, kind of like, what medications are you on? Are you allergic to anything? Pregnant or lactating? And then as an NP or my PA, we will go in and then we will do we will do the GFE that has more detailed questions, and then we do the assessment and all of that. Is it okay for the students to do the beginning part that I mentioned?
Absolutely. That's the standard of care. Every time anyone, if you think about it, you go to the doctor, an MA typically is taking your blood pressure and asking you questions. What's great about the app, if you use the app, you can customize those questions and give those students something to do. And patients appreciate having someone else answer the questions for them. That what they do hate is answering the questions twice, which is why we intentionally trained and built the GFE engine to where those answers are there for the nurse practitioner to look at and review and maybe clarify or confirm, but they're not supposed to ask the same stuff twice because it's more than legal. It's common, it's normal, it's ordinary. I'll let Dr. LeBand, he runs a private practice, comment on that, but that's what a medical assistant is. What's great about California, and the very few things that's great about it, is that the medical assistant basically doesn't have any certification. So when we ran our practice, my wife became a medical assistant. Of course, I trained her on sterile technique and how to unbox something on a sterile field and help someone glove up and things like that. If you want, you can make your own MA certificate. We have a sample copy, but they're really easy to do. But that's definitely ordinary. Do you agree, Dr. LeBand?
I just want to clarify that they are not medical assistants. They are volunteers. They're either getting their prereqs to go into NP school or PA school. They're just volunteering.
That's perfectly fine. You can introduce them as a student. I would make sure they have a name tag. that says student volunteer or something like that. So, because one thing they'll get that they hate is if there's an appearance of a nurse or NP or MD, white coat, white lab jacket, something like that, and then they're like, "Oh, I thought this was the doctor," or "I thought you were a nurse," and that could potentially trigger an alarm. I would say definitely put their name with a little, and their role should be patient care coordinator or student volunteer. Something
Okay.
like that.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. And then just lastly, I'm sorry, lastly.
The MA doesn't have to have a certification. That's not a legal requirement. It's just nice when especially because then if they're going to be accessing patient records, they do have to sign those students, especially BAA.
Oh, okay, amazing. Thank you for that. And then just lastly, is the GFE only required for a new patient yearly? Because we usually do them every single time they come in for treatment, whether it's every 3 months or 6 months. We just go through.
If you have, I'd say if you have your NP, I think it's a great there, and therefore your cost is fixed on the GFEs, and the fact that you're employing an advanced practice provider or a PA or even an MD on site, yeah, then of course I think it triggers a really nice introduction to the consult process itself. And you're right, people have travel, they have variable sun exposure, they might be on photosensitizing meds, and that changes day by day. So it's not a bad idea to update medical history. Even you may not have to do a full new GFE, and if you're paying for it through the NMD service, or whether you're waiting on your PA who's down the hall, you don't have to necessarily get a full GFE. But just go through and update the medical history and the questionnaires, which is why we built in the app that you can click and have a time date stamp that says medical history reviewed and updated by nurse name or by care coordinator name. So we did that intentionally in case there were changes, that you could track the changes. And what's cool is you can go back and see what the answers were at the last time I think we called it certification. You certify the medical history. So you won't have to pay for another GFE. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Brittany, were you able to figure out if we can export a whole list of people who did the GFE? Our dev team is still working on that, Elin. Yeah, and let's leave questions to the end. I know there's gonna be a ton of questions. And yes, this Zoom recording will be recorded and sent to all of you guys as well. And I feel like we can be here all day talking about all of this. Okay, let's get through this first. All right, moving on. Financial structure and fund management. That was one of the number one common questions that were asked throughout like the whole team, is like the flow of funds of med spas. And I know a lot of you guys, when you guys first initially spoke to a lot of us here at WeTreat, you guys asked about that, right? The flow of funds. So if you guys don't already have a bank account that is set up with the PC with Dr. Paula Ban as the owner, please let us know and we will initiate that. All the revenue pretty much needs to flow through the PC account. So everything needs to be flowing through that account, and then it gets dispersed to the management company every single month, adhering to what's said in the MSA agreement. So we use Chase Bank. That's the account that Paula Ban has set up Dr. Paula Ban has set up an account with. You guys will be added as signatories to that account. And again, all revenue must flow through that account for any prescriptive and medical procedures done in the clinic.
I was just going to add that this is called the revenue account, and it's in the managed services agreement. It's nothing unusual about our model. It's what everyone does. We set them up at Chase. We could do it at a different bank if your lawyer wants it done differently, but it has to be in the EIN number of the practice. Reason why, they're going to ask when you run merchant processing using Square, Stripe, whatever, for Botox, for a service that's the practice of medicine, where does that money go? And it has to legally flow, though it's not codified. And so even in cases where because we have some lawyers who say that's nonsense, MSO-PC model allows any bank account to be set up as long as there's access, to the licensed shareholder, the licensed MDs. and we'll accommodate that. But the safest thing to do is to set it up in the EIN number, which is National Medical Directors, get your Chase sub account, and then sweep it and pay your management fees from that account. So they're going to ask you, like, when you charge for practice of medicine, where does that money go? And the answer is always the revenue account, which is National Medical Directors. And, you know, maybe it's not at Chase. If you did it at Bank of America or wherever, that's fine. Now, if you're running a spa and you have non-medical services and you're selling skincare, and maybe that business predated the med spa component, then you can have a separate gateway for that and a separate bank account, and that's fine. I think it's not a bad idea to run two P&Ls, especially if you're looking at the profitability of you know, that laser that you bought, or you know, the Botox nurse that you've got on staff, and you're trying to decide, like, you know, which one, you know, is making more money here, and which costs more. So it's not a bad idea in those cases.
Again, if you don't have the big account set up with Dr. Paula Band, as you guys as a signatory, please let us know and we will get that set for you guys. Okay, supervision requirements and responsibilities. Physician availability. A lot of us know that your doctor is not physically in the med spa all day long, so we need to make sure that in the state of California, while there is no specific mileage limit exists, physicians must be immediately reachable, God forbid if there are any adverse reactions or any clinical questions. So if you have not established that relationship with a doctor, we need to make sure you do so. I don't see anyone that's like completely new here that has just joined us, but we need to make sure that we establish that relationship with your supervising medical director. And again, that protocols are signed with all clinicians on site. Geographic considerations. There are some states, not California, that the physicians must be within a certain mile radius of the med spa. As of right now, there are none in California, but we do try to pair you with a clinician or a doctor, that is closest to your med spa, so they can make site visits if they're close by.
Like the same county. And so just a quick aside, I highly advise that you all call your medical director, establish that contact, you know, make sure their cell phone works, and invite them to lunch, whatever it takes, pretty much by any means necessary. Get them to your clinic ASAP to update the binder from the last time they signed it, sign some charts, take some pictures, put it on Facebook, and, you know, make sure that the doctor and everyone is going to be able to say, oh yeah, he or she was just here on Thursday. You know, we love Dr. So-and-so. They're available anytime we call.
And standardized procedures for services performed by healthcare employee professionals when the physician is not in sight. We got to follow specific protocol. The PC, medical practice, must maintain control of all the medical records, hiring, firing, coding, billing decisions, all that fun stuff. So again, we just need to make sure that all the doctors are aware of who, what, why, and how. They know who's all the registered nurses, who's injecting, who's firing the lasers, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why when you guys do first sign up with us, we ask you for that step one list of sending us all of your employees. So doctor is aware, right? We don't want it to be where Dr. LeBand gets a phone call saying, like, hey, Stacy fired a laser and burned someone. We don't want it to be like, who's Stacy? So we just need to make sure that the physician is aware and establishes that relationship with all of your clinicians. And we need to make sure that you guys are aware of what your guys' responsibilities are as the MSO, also known as the management company. And that may include administrative duties, facility management, all that stuff, you know, creating, saying hi to patients, putting together packages, etc. So we just need to make sure that we understand whose role is what. The main role of the PC is to pretty much own the practice of medicine, and we need to make sure we're not interfering with that.
To that end, I want to inject. You don't want it to be able to be said that when they ask Nurse Shelley who Paula Band is, or let's not throw Paula Band in every single time, because there's 39 medical directors, right? Whoever your medical director is, and Nurse Shelley says, I have no idea. That you got to fix that. Like today, get these people on the phone, FaceTime, so that you can say, we FaceTimed, we went over what she's good at, what she's not good at, or what, you know, whatever, how I want her to call me when there's an adverse event, so that no one can ever say that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of already went over this, the physician oversight requirements, examine the patient via good faith exam, establishing clear protocols, which national medical directors have.
Yeah, next, let's get to the questions.
Okay, let's see. Responding to legal inquiries. You kind of spoke about this at the beginning. God forbid if you guys do get someone that walks into your clinic saying like, "Hey, there's been a complaint. Give us all your records," or who's doing what. You don't have to. You can't. You're supposed to comply and cooperate, but you are not required to participate in any voluntary interviews.
What I'll tell you though is if you don't sit down and talk to them and be nice and be accommodating, if you don't and you act like a jerk and get belligerent, they are taking all your stuff. And I almost said the S word, but like they are literally taking your printer, your phone, and you're probably never getting it back. So we were nice. They had 13 iMac studios boxed up on Thursday and all of our phones. And by the end of the day, because we were very helpful and carefully answered their questions is what we do. So we felt comfortable doing it. They let us keep all of our stuff. So it is what it is.
Come in to say, "Hi, how are you? We wanted to see how beautiful the med spa is." They only come in if there's a complaint, right?
They're not friendly. So scroll down and show this picture we made with AI. So you get this in your mind. 10% of you, like some percent, this is going to happen and you cannot freak out. You're going to, but you have to like maintain your composure and be professional and be kind. And do not panic. This is what they do. The DCA, Department of Consumer Affairs, just so you know, is an arm of the California Medical Board. It's their investigative arm. They spend their entire yearly budget, which is $55 million. Their entire budget is spent on the 36,000 investigation complaints that they get per year. They don't investigate all of them. Most go inquiry and never escalate. But this, they're not mall cops. Don't insult them. They have attitudes and personalities, and you just never know if they're in a good mood or they have the prerogative to mess you up bad. So just be professional and be nice. But if you don't feel like you have the right answers at the top of your head because you're overwhelmed, just tell them, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I really want to just speak to you and answer all of your questions. They're very important questions, but I really want my lawyer to be with me. Would that be okay, Officer so-and-so? And they will stop asking questions immediately. These are the ones we had a debrief after they came on Thursday, and over the years, because like I said, we have 3 to 8 investigations that we help with every year at all times. Never lost one. These are the questions they ask. Brittany, I think it's worth going over.
Let's go over these questions because it's probably
and answer them, but be brief because it's almost 1.
Who hires the doctors? National Medical Directors Inc. does. The practice. Practice hires the doctors. Who orders the medications? The doctors. Everything pretty much on this list is the doctor.
Yeah, they're going to say who orders the medications. And you might say, I put in the orders, but they're authorized by our medical director. And what's great about how you guys have everything set up is all your new account setup paperwork, right? Anything, Allergan, Galderma, MERS, all of that has to be, even McKesson, you have to have a doctor's license number attached to it. And then that app, usually like say McKesson, that if you're a manager and you're going in and ordering alcohol swabs and syringes, it's because the doctor allowed you to and has you doing that understanding order. They're satisfied with that answer. But if you're saying, my doctor liked Juvederm and we just don't like that, we prefer Galderma. And so I had to go ahead and order the Galderma because my doctor's an idiot. You're done. You just blew your leg off with a shotgun. And I just hope that no one would ever say something silly like that. The answers, like Brittany said, pretty much to all these questions is the doctor. But bang them out real quick, Brittany, and then let people ask their question. There's a couple hands.
So it sounds to me like the big concern here has more or less been the GFE. For one of the questions that, Brittany, we talked about, especially in the beginning, was more of the flow of funds question and having 2 separate QuickBooks accounts. Is that something that we need to revisit in the sense of, also like we have a business credit card that we make a lot of purchases through. whether it's medical supplies, whether it's the actual, Botox, whatever it might be. So I guess that's where.
Yeah, great question. That's perfectly fine. So there's no codified law on this. So the risk, that's why we will hear lawyers 50-50 on this, whether the revenue account has to be in the name of the PC with using its EIN number. But they will ask it because they use it as a tiny morsel of evidence to the violation of CPOM. So you can use and so I literally stood here Thursday, and the lead investigator, I said, "Do you want our transactions in and how we charge for GFEs?" He goes, "How?" He literally was like, "How you do your bookkeeping is up to you and your accountant. I don't care. Let me just get some patient charts." So that was the first time I ever heard him say, "We don't really care about how you're paying for the medical supplies." But the one thing you want to make sure you get right is that when you perform the practice of medicine and then charge the patient, that money goes into some bank account that's in the name of the practice with the practice's EIN number, and the doctor has control over it. So the doctor is capable as a money mover, is what they call it in the banking world, sometimes called a signatory. Signatory referred to checks, depositing and writing checks. None of us use checks anymore, so now they call them money movers because of digital banking. Did that answer it?
Yeah, that answers it. And then the second question is regarding hiring and firing. We are using Gusto. I don't think we've ever had the doctor or our medical director, whether it's Paul or Dr. Feinberg, sign off on the actual offer letter, for example, but it's through Gusto. Do we need to worry about that since it's all through Gusto anyways?
No, we're going to look at Gusto's capabilities and see if they've enhanced. We've asked for that feature about a year ago, last time, not available. But if you just make sure that there's an introduction with resume and some sort of skills checklist, which is in your binder. If it's not in your binder, then let us know. We have a template. You want to have a record, and an email is fine, that the doctor verified that licensee and gave the nod and said something like, "Go ahead and send them an offer letter. Thank you. Good find."
God, so before the actual
Before you send it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I'm assuming let's just assume that before any licensee was hired by the management company, that the doctor probably just received a phone call, right? And was like, "Sounds good. Send them an offer letter." That's that. If it gets that far, that's what happened.
Yeah. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
I do have a question when it comes to the flow of funds. So obviously it is through the bank account that the doctor has. But in regards to the medical supplies, currently I have it set up where Dr. Laban's, I just transfer the funds into the MSO company to be able to pay for this medical supplies. Is that okay? Or does it have to directly come out of the doctor's account?
If you can set it up to where you have an ACH or Chase will give you a debit card, that's ideal. We know there's no codified law that we know of. We're not lawyers. Maybe something's changed or exists that we don't know of. But we also don't have never heard of an investigation going that far to where they brought up evidence that MSO paid for medical supplies with a credit card that they're getting airline miles on. We've never heard it going that far. Again, the only thing they really want to make sure is that when charges are obtained for practice of medicine, it goes to the PC bank account. From there, that's what the MSA is about. Doctors don't have time to set all this stuff up, nor do they want to. So they hire managers, which is you guys, to handle it. So if you can get it connected to your revenue account, that's always going to look better. Because what you want to be able to do is when you get your investigation, assuming you do, let's God pray you never do, but when you're able to just generate all kinds of amazing documentation that blows them away and says, "Wow, there's no smoke here, there's no fire, and we're going to lose," aka I'm the medical board, as hypothetically here, like we're not going to win this investigation because these people know what the hell they're doing. So the more documentation you have of like a really tight process, the faster they go away.
main question are whose patients or who owns the patients, right? The practice owns the patient.
They came at us with that question because they were under the impression that lay people, I think they were hoping that they could get one of our 13 employees here who are mostly software engineers to say they were doing GFEs. Remember, Brittany, or you weren't here actually, you lucked out. But yeah, they're hoping to get somebody to say, "Oh, I'm Sheila, the nurse, the care coordinator, and I can see the patient charts." "Oh, really? Do you do the GFEs?" "Well, sure, I do the GFEs." Sheila's probably saying contextually that I tee up the GFE, right? I might even help them answer their questions or go through the questions with them. So that's why you got to be so careful what you say, because if you accidentally slip and say, as a layperson, that I help with the GFEs, their ears perk up. They'll be like, "Oh, really? And tell me more about that." And so just avoid that conversation altogether. Obviously, the only person, and based on the role in the software, if you're not prescriber role, you should not be able to update or change the status of a service on the GFE. If somehow that is the case, that's a bug, and please report it. But we fixed that a long time ago. And certainly never be tempted to go in there and change the GFE status if for some reason your user role lets you do that's a glitch. But I haven't heard about that in like a year and a half, so I doubt that's going on. I hope that answered the question.
I think so. Yes. Okay. Who chooses the wording on your website? So I know a lot of us are going to get legit script certified and stuff like that, or a lot of it is saying, "Oh, new med spa in San Diego, owned by Brittany Botti," right? Because that's what a lot of new entrepreneurs want to say. They're so proud of opening their website. They're saying that they're the owner. So a lot of this is referring to, again, posting that you're medically supervised by the practice, doctor's headshot, bio, and all that stuff on the website, making sure that we word it correctly, especially for promoting and marketing purposes, which we'll get into later when it comes to getting legit script certified. Anything to add on that? I think we went over a little bit about that previously, Jay.
No, that was something they asked us specifically, but it's a good opportunity to let them know to comb their website and make sure the medical director and their license number. And I would even add that QR code somewhere, to let consumers file a complaint. That's supposed to be printed off and put in a conspicuous area, typically the lobby, and it's supposed to be in every exam room. I don't know that anybody's doing that, but it's certainly in the lobby. We've not had any inquiries on that. Like, they never even ask about that. But that's a misdemeanor 1C if you don't have the damn QR code in your lobby that the consumer can go to the medical board and file a complaint. This is the biggest one, that question there below that, Brittany. Go ahead.
Who can own a med spa? Only licensed.
I can. My neighbor owns one. My best friend from college is a celebrity injector on Instagram, right?
No.
Wrong.
No, wrong.
We all know the truth, but you can't just be. This is the first question they're going to ask you. The first question. If you get this wrong, you open up Pandora's box. And so, does anyone have any questions about what the right answer to that question is? The answer is a licensed physician only. Okay. Awesome. Okay, we have hands up.
That would be me. Just going back to the QR code, I know you had emailed a sheet to post up a notice to patients where to file a complaint, but is there an updated one with a QR code, or it's the same one?
It's the
you're
same
referencing?
one. It's the same one, yeah. And you can download it from the medical board website.
Hi guys, just had a really quick question regarding the wording on the website. I asked in the Q&A section too, but like, for example, on our website, do we need to anywhere mention that, either supervised or owned by national directors, apart from like the medical director, like Dr. Paul Laban's name, like a photo and everything? Do we anywhere else do we need to say it on
Theoretically, legally, it's defensible not to. But again, what we're trying to do is shoo them away by letting them know right out the gate that you're supervised and owned by a practice. So yeah, you could defend it that no, we have a fictitious name registered under NMD. So there you go. But like, before they ever show up, the first thing they're looking at weeks, months in advance is your website and your Facebook and your Instagram. Am I wrong? And because they bring these things in, and we're like, you took that screenshot from 7 months ago. So they're planning carefully. If you have all this stuff on your website at the beginning, they're going someplace else. I'm talking about the investigators. Does that make sense?
Yep, that helps. Thank you.
So it's just smart. Just put it in there as a little footer.
And is it better to put more advice to put supervised or owned, or
All of
matter?
it. Yeah, you guys want to tell them exactly what they need to hear to move on to the next of the 36,000 complaints they get per year. Just to make your job easy. Say owned and operated by national medical directors whose shareholder is Dr. Paula Bander, and you can say chief medical officer is, and who's our supervising medical director is Dr. John Brown, and GFE consultant is Dr. So-and-so, and prescribers are this, and this, license numbers, boom. And Brittany, that's not a bad idea. Let's draft that up and send it out so everyone can just drop that on their website homepage, maybe down towards the bottom. And when they see that, they're going to be like, next, you know.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we already do this, but
Great
I just want to confirm. Thank you.
Real quick, I see that you were in the chat here about your esthetician who rents a room.
Yes.
Okay, she's not on our payroll. What rules apply to her? Are we responsible for her if she's not employed by us?
Is she running her own merchant processing and seeing her own clients then?
She is, and then she's also seeing some patients from the med spa as well.
And you're running that charge on your payment gateway?
Yes.
Yeah, she needs a license from the Board of Cosmetology for sure.
She has one.
Okay, then you're good. And then basically you're essentially the leaseholder as the MSO. So I would use some of that commercial, take a copy of the commercial sublease agreement if you probably already have, and have her sign that, because the practice is leasing space from you. So that seems fine. That seems fine to me.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. A lot of people do that. They rent out a room to someone doing lashes or something like that just to help. Let me just say before we lose people because it's getting late, you guys, I cannot emphasize this enough. You must have my advice to you, having been in this business a long, long time, you must have a satisfaction guarantee or your money back policy, and lean into that with your consult. I did it. We crushed it when I had my med spas. No one ever refunded. And if they did, they wanted to just switch their money for a credit on something else. They don't want money back. They want results. Why is this important? Every single complaint that became an investigation, which is costing us $6-figure dollars this year alone, was because some crazy patient, I don't want you to forget this, they want refunded on their Botox. $300, $800 is the best money you ever spent. Don't let your ego get in the way. Give that crazy person their money back, because that's what's going on now. This whole entire thing is from a crazy patient that wanted her money back for the Botox that didn't work and didn't want to hear any other options. And they said, no, F you kind of thing. And this is what's going down in Texas. We're into that one for about $110,000, all because a vulvovaginal treatment didn't work. And they wanted their $800 back. They did it a second time. She still felt no results. They refused to give her money back. They spent $40, and we're into it at $50 now, getting ready for the settlement conference, which is going to cost another $30,000. You do the math. So any questions about that, I'm happy to take them. But please, I beg you, give money back, because these crazy people in California know all they got to do is go to the website, file a complaint, and screw you. The next one is ex-employees. It's not providing refunds to patients. The second one is making former nurses angry. So give people severance checks for release of claims. It's the best $2,500 you've ever spent. Let them go shopping to the mall that weekend. Like, who cares? You're gonna save yourself so much headaches. If someone's nasty, angry, and leaving, be like, I'm so sorry it didn't work out. We really want to make sure you don't retaliate. Would you be willing to talk about a settlement conference? And bring in your lawyer, or bring in whoever's smooth with people and can control their temper and cut checks.
So can we just back up just to the refund? So we've been doing this a lot lately where people seem to have learned that, 6 months later, I'm not happy with what you did. Give me a refund. And so sometimes we do, just to, again, like you said, prevent anything from going further. But we try to get them to sign something. Is that what we should be doing? Because we want to make sure they're not doing the bad person stuff, especially here in California, we're noticing, where they get their money back and then they're giving bad reviews and then they're like, still doing things that are, we're a little scared. So is
No,
that
I would like
proper?
an apology and an offer to come in and try something else, unless you don't like the person or they're not in alignment with reality. Then don't offer them to come back in. Just like, I'm really sorry it didn't work out, and always play into it. We're a small business. We're trying to do good for people, and I'm so sorry you didn't have a good experience. I'll be happy to get that refund over to you right away, like today. Okay? And then let me know when you got it, ma'am. Now, if you're cutting checks for settlements or what we call release of claims, which is in your binder, if you can't find your release of claims form, but you can have Chat GPT write you a really nice one, honestly. Then you break out the contract, because that person, whether it's an ex-employee or a patient, knows that they're getting paid to sign this form and keep their mouth shut, so to speak. If they think they have a malpractice claim, it's a tough situation. I would say definitely refund. We have one guy got burned from an M sculpt left on too long, and he ended up 6 months later having a little bit of hypopigmentation on his abdomen and whatnot. He thought he had some big case. They had refunded him. Then he wanted 45,000, then 15,000. Get your account manager involved. We can have the doctor massage that person and get them down to $2,000 or $4,000. But yeah, in that case, you need a release of claims agreement, which won't really hold up. It doesn't hold up in a, you could still get sued even though they signed that. The plaintiff's attorney will claim that it was under duress or something like that. But it helps. It probably gives a lot more motivation to not say anything.
And even though all the consents state that, there are no refunds, there are no guarantee of results, basically everything says that.
Yeah.
So basically you still advise that, right?
Absolutely, because all those forms are worthless. Essentially, in the court of law, you can still get sued. They're still going to file a complaint.
Okay.
And what you're trying to not do is because the reality is we laughed about this, Brittany, back when we met. I remember we were saying how out of 100 patients, especially if you're running Groupon, these people come to you not because they heard about it.
That's what we're noticing.
Yeah. Groupon. So you're coming in. We would say 1 in 30 was nuts. 1 in 100 was there to screw you over.
Yeah.
And it was still worth it. We still were making money. Our job your job as that med spa business is to basically be able to identify those people and finagle them in and out without wanting to create an enemy. It's like driving on the road. There's someone out there with road rage and you can't tell until they think you cut them off. It's just the reality.
Okay.
So, but you just never want, you basically have to swallow your pride at all times, and you never go into battle with these patients because they know how to mess up your life and ruin your day and file complaints, and you have no say over them. And God, what would you pay if you got a 1-star review about how awful it was?
Right.
I used to laugh about this, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. Yeah. So was it worth it? Saving face and telling that patient she's nuts, get out of the office or whatever, or no, you signed the form, you're not getting your refund. Then she goes and we had this happen a couple times where we had these patient trolls who would change identities on Google. Remember some of those, Brittany? And they would come back 2-3 months later. We're like, what the hell? It's always Friday night. She must be drinking somewhere. Going on Yelp and Google blasting us. And so you God forbid you create one of those enemies. So just be nice to them and make it hard for them to want to hate you is what I would say. It's still worth it, you guys. It's still worth it being the med spa. You know, there's 99 amazing, thankful people for everyone who's crazy, and they're hurting inside too. You gotta have compassion on those people. Sometimes they turn around, cry, and say, "I'm so sorry, I'm a psycho. I'm so thankful that you saw me." And every now and then that'll happen. It might take a while, but just put love on everybody, and you'll do fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's what we're here for too. If you ever encounter with a patient like that, always call your doctor.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else is dealing with it, but we have a lot lately. A lot of like people just wanting their money back. And it doesn't matter if it was last week or 6 months ago. I think everyone's just looking for money maybe right now. I don't know, but
that happens in waves. Edit your consult a little bit.
Yeah.
Double check, set realistic expectations at the beginning. And I always would say, as much as you're tempted to make sales, make sure that I have a whole article I wrote on alignment, which is what's the likelihood that my version of success is aligned with that patient's version of success? How much results are they looking for? And if you'll find when you start digging into that, sometimes they're way in left field on what the likelihood of their mommy tummy looking like a supermodel with 3 treatments of whatever.
right.
And if they're like, you know what, if it's 10% better, I'd be happy. That's what you want to hear. How is it?
Is that on the form? Is that on the? That's a great idea to Brittany. Maybe we can make a note to add that to the form somewhere, or like, what's your expectation of this treatment? That would be great to know.
But even if it's on a form, I love it, but I've done that, and
Yeah, you have.
it doesn't matter. It's
Okay.
yeah, they won't go back to it and be like, oh yeah, you're right, I did agree to 10%. It's you can decide, you can do a psychoanalysis on that patient in the time you're sitting down with them and looking at pictures or looking at their body and being like, does 10% sound like, if we can get it 10% better, would that be success? And you can watch their facial expression and you can know.
And there's times where we turn people away saying like, I think you're perfect.
Well, my point I was going to say, I forgot to say, the point I was trying to make was to take money slowly and give it back quickly.
Okay.
Go with patients who are there to buy a treat, and the treat is self-care, there to spend some time, and it really doesn't matter if the treatment works all that well. Honestly, that's the best patient. And so they'll be like, I'll pay for it. No, I know it might not work. That's okay. I have this extra money. My stocks are crushing it. And I just want to do something nice for myself. So, and I love seeing you. I love coming here, right? Those are the best patients ever. And you just build a herd of 100 of those and you'll never need another new one. These are questions asked by the investigators. Flow of funds, point of sale, finals. Yeah, they're going to ask you, when you run the credit card, where does it go? Full names of the providers, who signs off on the GFEs, that's all NPs, doctors, who performs the GFEs, who hires the doctors, that's Dr. LeBand, blah, 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 blah. How many medical directors do you have? Yeah. Okay, there we go. Final slide.
Hi, I'm a nurse. I work in an office with an NP and a PA. Are you saying that RNs can't make recommendations on dosing at all? Or if they have a GFE, they can, or can they just do a consultation?
That's a tough one. I would say just be careful how you word it, and I will tell you that probably 99% of the clinics are like the GFEs are not making dosing recommendations. They're not going to say half a syringe should be fine in your lips. I don't think you need a full syringe, or you need 2. No. So that's in your protocol. So if you know the patient, you're good. If it's like a new patient, like we said, if it's that couple there for the free consult, then I would be very careful, and I would say, I'll double check with my nurse practitioner. But typically, for what the results that you're looking for, the manufacturer recommendation, which is straight off the Botox packaging, right, is 20 here, 20 there, and 40 in your brow. But we're gonna, clear that with the NP, or I've already cleared that with the NP. You might say it like that, but just be careful. It's a tough one. There's no clear codified rule on dosing because it is in the protocol. And but to that end, you're protected insofar as we've never heard or been involved in an investigation in which that it got down to that granular of a level. But we have seen it happen where the nurse touched the Botox or grabbed the syringe, went to put it in the Botox, and they presented their badges because they were queuing up the iPad. The care coordinator was queuing up the NP, and I think at the time they were using Spa Connect, and they were queuing up the NP, but they hadn't had the GFE yet. So they felt like the nurse was practicing medicine before they were cleared to do so.
Okay,
That's how
so
they're
if
going
they
to.
had, okay, so if they had the GFE signed, it's like safer.
Yeah, for sure, because now you're approved to administer the medication Botox under the protocol. Let's assume maybe Dr. Laban has signed that protocol, and that protocol is a standing order. Just like if you're a nurse in a hospital and they admitted the guy to the ER. I used to be a hospitalist for 15 years, right? And like I have all these standing orders: Tylenol, Colace, this and that. Call if the fever is this. All of those are orders. Botox is a standing order, and then that protocol is going to be that recommendation on how you dose it. We do not now, Paul, you can chime in on this, but the NPs and the medical directors are not specifying dosing, except in stuff like GLP-1s, but they're not specifying dosing, are they?
Okay. And in the GFE, we should add the standing orders to the GFE? Like we should write what we recommend?
Good question. No, we're not. They can. It's not a bad idea, but the problem is that if they write that dose, the NP writes the dose, then and you don't follow it, or it turns out you went up or down, now you're kind of potentially liable for not following the actual order. I would just say always per protocol. I would just leave it at per protocol. Now, Texas tried to get this passed in the recent Senate bill. They ended up slashing it out of the bill and leaving it out, but we were prepared and have coded some new software features to include the protocol with every GFE. So look for that this year, but I don't see it happening as a codified rule in California or Texas anytime soon because they couldn't get it done. They tried. So, but it's not a bad idea to attach a protocol to, and like a diagnosis, a protocol, and conditions upon which to call for an adverse event. But I don't see it ever happening to where it's going to be a codified rule.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, good question.
And I saw you had your hand up. Is there still something?
Oh, I was just going to, just build on what Jennings was saying with, as an RN under your license, you just have to choose your language very carefully, right? So you can describe to a patient, our protocol says this is the dose we use, or this is the dose range we use. But you can't be you don't want to use any language that's going to suggest that you're choosing or determining the
Calling
dose.
the shots. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
you're not taking the dose. You're just saying the
so it's always
protocol
safer to say this is how we normally do it, but I'll check with the NP or the physician to determine the
and I like the idea of saying per doctor so-and-so's protocol, we can do this much or we can do that much. Don't you like that, Dr. LeBan? I love that.
Yeah.
A great chat here. So bottom line, just update your binders. Be careful with your GFPs. Get signatures on there. Reach out to your doctors and establish a line of communication. Make sure nurses know who the doctors are. Get on a Zoom call with them or a meeting, or go have a Starbucks with everybody. Doctors, get in there and do your site visits if you can in the next couple of weeks. So, everything's buttoned up. But we're not worried. We don't know of anyone who doesn't have, well and above what the standard is for MSO-PC model in California. And I feel like the board kind of felt the same, or understood that at least we were compliance experts when they were here, and we were answering on behalf of NMD too. They had a lot of NMD questions, and they were impressed with what Amanda knew and in response to our interview. So you guys are in a good spot. And don't be discouraged, because I've always said highly regulated businesses are still great businesses because they keep all the idiots out. And you may think, well, this isn't worth it. I don't want to be in the med spa business. That's a natural reaction because there's a lot of little nuances, and I hate nuances, right? But that's what keeps all the competition out, and it arguably allows you to justify your premium prices too. So it's worth doing, but you can't be lazy.
Hey guys, I have a quick question regarding the dosing. So dosing is not discussed between the RN patient?
Between the RN and the patient?
Yeah,
No,
so basically
what we're talking
so
about
we,
the semantics of recommending it and the
yeah.
and how to construct that conversation. You want to try to remember to reference the protocol and or the medical director or the nurse practitioner who did the GP. So it would
Yeah.
be, okay, you're cleared, and I know you usually get 20 in that fit. Sometimes they're like, I want 20 here, and I only want 12 here, and I want 4 here, right? And you're like, that may not work. I just want you to know I'm used to giving more, and that's fine. But always try to remember to reference the protocol. Say, well, the protocol allows me to do 20 up to 20 here, which and then that would be safe. But we've never heard of anyone getting in trouble for dosing the Botox after, or picking how many syringes of filler, or setting the pulse duration influence on the laser after the protocol was activated by the fact that the GFE has just been done. When the GFE is done, the protocol is activated, and that serves like a standing order in a hospital with parameters.
The question that we're trying to ask is, so the GFE is done by the nurse practitioner virtually already before the new patient comes in, and then the consult is done between the nurse and the patient. The nurse is not recommending a dosing specifically in the consult, but then the treatment plan is created and presented to the patient as a quote. Is that okay?
I'm not a lawyer, just to be clear, but yes, that is okay, because the GFE, assuming the GFE covers the treatment that the nurse is about to do, if they sidebar and like, oh, I hear you have GLP-1s, can I get a script for that? My BMI is 30, that so the GFE triggers the protocol, or sometimes called the standing order. So as long as the service about to be offered is covered by the GFE that was done last week, 6 months ago, whatever, you're good because the protocol is triggered.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good to hear from you too. I knew this day was coming, Gagandeep. Like I called her, like I was like, I'm surprised that they have it, because we just got so big. We have so many med spas. And some FNPs. So I'm not too worried about it. I mean, it's going to be costly and it's going to be stressful and all that, but this has to happen. And once we emerge as the group, meaning Dr. Leban's group, and we treat as the consultants that have survived and been through this, we're going to learn a lot of cool stuff, that we will both use in onboarding, but also in building out features in the software.
Yes, most definitely. I think we do have a lot of these protocols already in place. And if would love to discuss with you, Brittany, if anything else we can help out with as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
So what's next for all the management companies is to review that checklist and then reach out. Like, again, a lot of you guys are I'm your guys' account manager. Reach out to me. Let's get something on my calendar so we can go over everything and make sure you guys have the appropriate usage. You have like 5 different binders, I'm assuming, because we switch different service levels throughout the year. So we can make sure you have the correct service level, correct signature.
Yes.
Go with the biggest one. Go with the highest level one. They all have the same stuff. They just get more and more.
Yeah.
Okay, so the biggest one is about 500 pages. Is that the right one?
Yeah, that's going to have everything that the other binders have. I would just pull out the pages of signed stuff, if anything's signed, and put that in the front, which is where you put your signed agreements. You're supposed to put your signed agreements in the front tab. So pull out anything that was signed in the other ones and drop that either in protocols or agreements, legal agreements, and you can just toss those other ones, because you don't want them taking them and being like, this binder didn't have anything in it. Just stick to one main binder.
Right. So I just wanted to know, like, what was the most up-to-date binder, if there's been any changes. If it's the 500, I have that one.
Okay.
You're good. We haven't changed them this year.
Okay, and one more
new
thing.
protocol here and there, which you'd get.
Sure. So with the hiring staff and training them and signing off on the training. There are some pages that require like medical director to sign. How do you want us to navigate that?
Send it as a PDF and let them use the preview tool to drop their signature, and they can take an optical image with their camera of their signature and tag. You can drop that signature. That's the easiest. If they have Mac, they use preview. Or if you have an e-signature platform that I know PandaDoc lets you, sends a hello sign, lets you have a free account, just route it for a signature to your doctor. And the reason why too is they ask us like, well, who's getting all these signatures? Like, we don't want to be the only ones. The manager, you want to have more jobs. You want to show that the manager does more administrative stuff than less. If that makes sense. We don't want them saying that we're influencing too much here at WeTreat. We want to we want to start providing advice and facilitation, but making sure that that the management teams are connecting with the medical director. Because a lot of times you call us even before the medical director, and that's just because that's just how it started, you know, and we understand that it might be easier and the medical directors are changing sometimes, things like that, but we really want to encourage each med spa to bro out, so to speak, with their medical director, like befriend them. If he or she is nearby, go have dinner, go meet for coffee, make sure they're coming to your clinic and get friendly, because we don't want them being like, they never call me, you know.
And what's the worst case scenario in this situation? I guess say they do come in and
Assuming
something's
no
worse.
patients were injured or died, worst case scenario with severe patient injury is felony, 16 months in prison. That's the worst case scenario for aiding and abetting the unlicensed medicine. No patients injured, it'll fall to the doctor. They have no jurisdiction really over non-licensees, but nurses can be investigated for aiding and abetting. But you really, and just speaking completely transparently, like, we've never even heard of it. I ask every lawyer. We've had a half a dozen, and their entire years of defending cases, have you ever even heard of it? Even when crazy doctors were renting their license and letting estheticians fire lasers and inject Botox and do, you know, non-licensed people actually practicing medicine, no one ever gets criminally charged. Now, that's just hearsay, right? That's anecdotal, and they're capable of doing whatever they want. So that's why we have to be careful and treat this very seriously.
Thank you.
You guys, if you haven't been through it, there's nothing more stressful than someone thinking you're doing something wrong, right? And you're not, especially when you're not, and you're trying to do the right thing and be a good person and be a good nurse or a good med spa manager, and then they're coming in acting like you're a criminal with guns out and shit, and it's just insulting. It's violating. But I don't see anytime soon in California we're ever going to get away with it. It's just got to be. It's like the nature of our business. But you can think about any other business you could be in, or someone you know runs a business. There's some regulatory body in charge of that business, whether you're selling retail goods or running restaurants, or you're doing e-waste recycling, or you name it. You know, if you're a general contractor doing kitchen remodels.
Also, like cosmetology board, they're regularly visiting their, you know, licensed staff. And I think it's more of a regular practice in those departments. It's kind of an odd one for us. And it's better to get used to it. You know, we have audits in the hospitals all the time. And
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. It's just scary.
it is.
I wish they would bring donuts and coffee and be like, let's talk. Do you have time? I want to hear about your
Comfort food.
We want to do a voluntary audit.
Yeah.
They don't. They have egos.
Okay. Can I just add
Go
one
ahead.
thing onto that? Just a question about getting signatures. You know, just coordinate with your medical director, right? Because there's 17 different ways to get the form signed. And, you know, each medical director might have their own preferred way of having you send them the documents. So just make sure you talk about it. And if anybody, you know, if I'm anybody on this call, if I'm your medical director too, if you're not sure, you've got my phone number and my email. You can reach out to me anytime, and we can coordinate on making sure all your forms are signed.
Thank you, Dr. Laban. Well, interesting side note, the medical board spends their budget on the DCA, but the Board of Registered Nursing, some of you may know, if you get investigated by the BRN, they'll ask you to pay for the cost of the investigation. So the BRN investigations drag on and on and on, as you guys may know. But the MBC tries to wrap them up if there's no one being harmed. Do you get any sense, did the BRN, was the BRN involved? What's that?
The nursing board?
Yeah, the nursing board, the Board of Registered Nurses. Yeah.
No idea.
No idea, yeah. But that's the one that'll just get dragged on, because if you lose it or in the settlement with it, they'll say, we're going to ask you, nurse so-and-so, to pay the $7,000 or whatever that it cost the BRN to investigate.
Thank you all.